for you, here for you today, here for you tomorrow. And then, of course, Thursday is Thanksgiving. And then we'll have pregame show instead of our show on Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. With Aaron and Rod. You'll have the pregame show on there instead. So we won't have a show on Friday or Thursday, but we're here with you till Wednesday, keeping you rolling here on the Sports Complex. On the show today, we will talk some Texas football, getting into Texas Tech. It's a short week, so we're moving right past. We can still talk some Iowa State if you guys want, but we're going to kind of start moving into Texas Tech. We're going to play some sound from Hook 'em Up. We'll get into Texas versus UConn, played the defending national champions of basketball last night, shorthanded, put up a good fight. We will get into that. We will talk a little bit about Monday Night Football as well, a great matchup, a Super Bowl rematch last night in Kansas City. We'll talk about some NFL news, anything else, and, of course, your text messages on the text line, 512-447-3776. 512-447-3776 is the text line number. If you guys want to join the conversation on the show, that is the place to do it. We can start off. I have a question for you to start off the show to just get you rolling on the text line. I went and got my hair cut today. Nice job. The guy did a good job. I was happy with the job. It was a fine time. The guy was nice enough. I personally, though, as someone who talks for a living and talks and shouldn't normally care too much about talking more, I'm somebody that when I go do my haircut, I don't need the conversation. I'm not a big small talk guy. I'm not big in the weather's dead. I don't do that a lot. I don't like to, I'll have conversations with friends, and then if I meet somebody out and we can talk sports or we can do, but I'm not a big small talk guy. So normally when I get my haircut, I prefer silence. Just cut it, and I'll just sit here. I don't need it. It's not going to take that long. I get if your hair takes longer to do. Mine does not take that long. I was home. I left my house and was home in less than an hour. So that should tell you that amount of time is okay to not talk. So I'm curious on the text line, 512-447-3776, if you guys want, if you're someone who likes to talk, or if this is more a universal thing, because most people I know are not huge, hey, let's have a conversation when you get your haircut. And now I get if you know the person, maybe you do. Maybe it's like a catch-up time with you and your friend. But just normally, if you go just get your haircut, do you want to have the conversation? Do you feel that most people should know? It's like, if we're just going in, we don't need to do this. I don't need the barber to try and have conversation. I don't need it. I get it. I'm cool with just sitting there and the music's playing in the place. I'm fine with that. That's good with me. I don't need anything else. So tell me, maybe I'm the crazy one. Maybe I'm the only one who's just antisocial and doesn't want to have the small talk conversation. But I was thinking about that today as I sat in the chair and we talked a little bit, and then it's just always that thing where it just tails off, and there's that awkward part before you can just sink fully into the silence. When you're like 5 minutes in and nothing's been said, then you're like, okay, we're pretty good, I think. I think we've understood we're both good with no words being said. But every time when something said, and then 2 minutes later, and then you sit in that little period of like, are you okay with this? I don't want to be the jerk, but I also don't want to talk. I also don't have any desire. I don't know you. That's just me. Maybe it's just me. Let me know on the text line if that's true to you too. Let me know on the text line as well. All right. Let's talk some Texas football as we get into the week. Short week because it is a short week for us. It's a short week for Texas football as well. They play on Friday afternoon. Should be a fun game. They have not, this is only the second home game since they've kind of done up the whole stadium to do the night games. We'll see if the drones are back out and they do the Thunderstruck and the new lights and everything they put in to DKR. We'll see. I'm assuming they're going to be doing all of that for this game. It is 6:30 game. We know it's getting dark now around 6, so it should be fine to do all that stuff at halftime or whenever they're going to do it. Should be a fun game for Texas. This is a game against a Texas Tech team that, again, you should be able to beat. And, as much as last week, it was something where Iowa State, I always, that team felt like a team that just did the things that pestered Texas. They were just a team that kind of did all the stuff that Texas has bothered Texas all year long. This doesn't seem like that week. Now, there could be something, it's Texas Tech. That is a team that wants to play Texas hard. It's a team that's always played Texas hard. But it is a game where I'm not, it's not so much, this doesn't feel like a game where Texas Tech's style of play is necessarily adversarial to Texas. Texas is one of their biggest strengths, and I'll play some sound from me and Rob B on Hook 'em Up, where they talk about the Texas strength. Texas Tech's strength is Taj Brooks in the running game. And Texas is really, really good at stopping the running game. So, if you say that's your matchup, they're not an elite defense either. They're not a turnover machine. They just don't have a lot of the things that kind of give Texas problems and give them problems all year long. Now, are they going to continue to fight for the whole game? Of course. Are they going to come after Texas and go after it? Yes. But this is a game for Texas that is a perfect example of what's been a problem for Texas in years past and has not seemed to be a problem this year. Now, you can maybe say in the Oklahoma game, now knowing how, what Oklahoma is, that Texas should have been able to handle their business there. But Texas coming out and playing to their level. And, even if you stumble a little bit, get back up and go finish the game. Texas has been able to do that. They've been able to get to 10 wins for the first time in a while. They are building in that direction. And so if we say Texas is building in that direction, this is a game on a Friday night that shouldn't be stressful. I'm sure it will be because they seem to all be right now. But this is a game on a Friday night that it's really more about, can Texas take the success that they've had and get to 10 wins? And can they take that and take it to that next step? Can they go out on a senior night at home after Thanksgiving, after going and spending some time with their family? And can the players on special teams who may be going back and the players and they're talking to high school friends, or they're talking to, a family member, an uncle, an aunt who's watching and goes, I don't see your number called. Why aren't they giving you the ball? And that person has to try and explain to them that I'm on special teams and I'm a big part of this team. And if you watch the game, you'll see me. You'll see me out there, but I'm not in this part. We're building there. And those guys have to still come out and perform on special teams. Now, I think Sark has gotten there. I think Sark has got this team at a different level of buy-in that the team hasn't been in a while. That this Texas team has a different level of buy-in. They have a different level of veteran leadership. We played just sound about culture yesterday and building that and trying to become a team that everyone has to carry their own weight. And I think there's part of that, of building the culture, where it's not so much you earn things by being a senior, you start earning them when you're a freshman, and letting freshmen and sophomores and everybody be part of the culture together and be a part of that buy-in. This is a big buy-in game for Texas. If you can come out and play this game right on your home field, and you can go take care of Texas Tech and just kind of put them down and, hand them the loss that they don't want, just finish the season strong, that's a big one. Sark talked about getting the players to buy in. He was asked yesterday about getting players to buy into this Texas team and how he kind of was able to get a buy-in that it doesn't seem like this team's had in years past, possibly with previous coaches. But Sark has now got the buy-in there where I'm not as worried about this Thanksgiving holiday as I was in some years past. Here's Sark talking about the player buy-in.
Well, I mean, I think inevitably, when you take over a program, you have to remember that the guys that were here in the program and the guys that were in that first recruiting class that I inherited that signed in December, they didn't sign up to play for Steve Sarkisian. They didn't sign up to get coached by Kyle Flood or Bo Davis or whomever, right? They had signed up for something different. And so naturally, when you come in, you're trying to gain and build trust, okay? And we have an old adage that we use in our building: trust equals time plus consistency. And so one of the challenges was, even through some of the tough days, the tough games, the tough losses, was remaining consistent as a coaching staff, remaining consistent with our message, remaining consistent of what we were asking of the players to do, not only on the field but off the field. And then over time, hopefully they could start to learn to trust us one player at a time. And as we went through it, I think that's inevitably probably the overall riding theme, is that I think we develop trust with our players, that our players know, hey, I'm going to always tell them the truth. Sometimes they may want to hear it, sometimes they may not, but they know where I'm coming from, that it's ultimately in their best interest, because my job as a coach and our coaching staff is to try to put our players in the best position to be successful, whether that's on the football field, in the classroom, or in life. And if they can understand that that's the overriding theme, and then we back that up with our actions, over time, we'll start to get their trust. And I think that's been kind of the journey over 3 years for the seniors that were here when we got here. And the guys that are still here that have persevered through the 3 years of it all, I owe them a ton, because without them trusting us, the other players in the program would have a harder time trusting us. And so that's probably the biggest thing when you talk about the buy-in.
And that's where the buy-in has been for Texas. And that's what's been great about this Texas team, is that we've seen them play at a level and continue to show up. And even when players may make a mistake, they're back on the sideline, they get back into it, and it does not compound into a massive problem. Now, we've seen the secondary give up in these games, and the secondary give up points, and that's still somewhat, to me, not necessarily just the players. That's also some scheming that has been done. And, I think you saw in Iowa State, they schemed it kind of that similar way, and it just worked a little bit better. But you want to see this team not be able to get distracted in a week where this is a very distracting week, because it is now coming down to the Big 12 championship, and people are talking about all the different odds of the Big 12 championship. People are talking about, how you're still not technically in the Big 12 championship. You got to win, and you win, but you control your own fate there. They're talking about the college football playoff, and now there's a Jordan Travis injury, and maybe that opens a door. And, Oregon's playing Oregon State, and maybe Oregon State pulls off the upset, and now that puts you a step closer. And, maybe somewhere else, maybe you get a win somewhere else. Maybe, Michigan, Ohio State, maybe Ohio State wins that game by 20, and then Michigan's knocked out of the way, and you can climb right back up into it. There's a lot of distractions going on right now, and it's very important for this Texas team to keep it going in the right mindset and keep it in that one game at a time. Sark talked about the importance of the game when he was asked about, this is a win and you're in. But, how do you feel about trying to teach your team that this is an important game, that this, you got to 10 wins. It feels like the gas is, it feels like you can kind of take a little bit of relaxation. It's a holiday week, everything going into it. How do you keep that mentality? Here's Sark talking about the importance of the game and telling his players about the importance of the game.
We haven't necessarily had to put more of an emphasis on this game, because I mean this when I tell you, after the OU game, I've made it a point that every game we played, the first thing I talked about to the team every morning, every Monday morning, every Friday night, this is a Big 12 championship game. We feel like we've been playing Big 12 championship games one week after another. We know the value of them. We know the importance of them. You never know how it's going to shake out, and we just did not want to put ourselves in position where we were relying on other people. And so I don't feel like in this week that I have to do more than that. I think that our players understand, hey, we went into this season with a mission to try to be champions. We felt like we were more than capable to do that, but that we would have to handle our business along the way. I think we've performed that way, but the work's not done. And so it's not something that we shy away from or need to shy away from, but it's also not something that I need to make it even bigger this week, because we've been talking this way now for almost 2 months, that of every game and the importance of the games, each weekend. And so I think our players are going to prepare really well, like they have been. I think they're going to go into the ball game with a clear mind and composed and poised, and try to play their best football, and then we'll see if it's good enough.
And so we talk about that distraction of college football playoffs. We talk about the distraction of the Big 12 championship game, and then you throw in the fact that this is Texas Tech, so there's automatically a distraction of Texas Tech fans being Texas Tech fans. And there's going to be a lot of talk around the game. And while they're not playing as great as they normally have, they do have some hope. Behren Morton is playing okay football and maybe getting a little bit better. Maybe we can get into that. Maybe they feel that Taj Brooks is he's a Doak Walker Award semifinalist along with Jonathan Brooks. So maybe they feel they got some love that they can show right there. And we know that this is a Texas team that's been dealing with or been talked about since the beginning of the season. This was the game that Brett Yormark made his comments that he was going to be there at the game and that he was hoping that Texas Tech would get the job done. And I don't think he doesn't want Texas Tech to knock Texas out of the Big 12 championship. Of course he wants it. You know, I mean, it's better for the Big 12 if one of those teams gets in. If Texas were to get in the college football playoff, sure, it'd be better for him. But I don't know if that's 100% what he's thinking, because he thinks, well, next year they're going to be leaving, which, by the way, there was news today that Cam Rising is going to come back for his 7th season at Utah. So there's your front runner to win the Big 12 next year. So he's got his team for next year if Cam Rising is coming back. But that not being said, Sark was asked about Brett Yormark in the comment and if he's spoken to him, and they've cleared the air since then. And Sark didn't really give it that they cleared the air. He said he's talked to him, but he didn't say it cleared the air. Here's Sark talking when he was asked about Brett Yormark's comments, the commissioner of the Big 12, at the beginning of the season when he was in Lubbock, and hoped that Texas would lose against Lubbock in Austin.
There was nothing to smooth over. He for me, we've been on this kick here for months now. This whole situation, us leaving the Big 12, our players didn't choose to leave the Big 12, right? They came to play for the University of Texas. What conference we're in, that's not what our players, they're just choosing to put on the burnt orange and white and run out of the tunnel. And so whether the commissioner's rooting against our players to win or not, or we're in the SEC or we're in the Big 12, at the end of the day, our guys just want to play good football and they want to win. And so we've tried to consume ourselves with what we need to do. As you guys have heard me say, we need to be enamored with us. And that's something that we've done. And that's been our focus. And I think that's why our players have been so poised and so composed, even on the road, as we go on the road and the success we've had there, because we haven't gotten caught up in what's going on outside. We've really tried to quiet the noise. We've really tried to stay focused on one another and how we can continue to support one another. And so, for the commissioner, we've had plenty of conversations, and he is coming. I got a chance to see him. He was in Ames Saturday night. He'll be here Friday. And I'm hopefully we put on a heck of a show for him. That's what I want. He's a commissioner of our conference, and I'm hopeful that when he watches us play, he's proud of the way that we play and representing the Big 12, because that's the conference we're in right now.
There's a classy answer from Sark. He does start it off like, I don't know what there's a smooth over. He said what he said. We know what he said. And we're going to go out there and try and prove him wrong and go win the game. And that's what you want to do, is you go, look, we want to go prove it. And we want to go we want to win a national title as Big 12 champion. That's what we'd like to do. Now you're going to need some help to get there, but you want to win the Big 12 championship first. And that's the point. There's a lot of distractions that are coming out this week. This is just a busy week for everybody. You're also talking about finals and players. Some players may graduate early. Some players are, just trying to get through their schoolwork. Some players are trying to figure out, the younger players trying to figure out, this is their first semester of finals for some of these guys. There's that going on. You have the Thanksgiving holiday where you're going to go back and see family and deal with all of that. You've got thrown in that it's Texas Tech, and they're going to be hitting you up on social media and everywhere else to try and get into your brain and try and mess with you. You've got the fact that you're 10-1, and people are saying that Texas is back, and I know we're not saying that, but people are saying it, so you have to deal with that. You feel like you're already in the Big 12 championship, but you still got to get into it. There's a college football playoff. There's a lot of noise around this program right now, but Texas can go out there and handle this Texas Tech team. I don't know if it'll be easy because it hasn't been all season, so I don't want to pretend that all of a sudden they're going to be able to be a team to close teams out and win by 40. But I think they can go into this Texas Tech game on senior night, have a great game, and be able to keep Texas Tech at bay. And we can talk more about it, and I want to play this clip from Hook 'em Up as well. But the reality is Texas Tech is a running football team, and one thing Texas does well is stop the run. So the reality of the main thing Texas Tech does to try and win football games, Texas knows how to stop it. So this is a game that Texas should be able to handle their business. But you got to let the distractions be not next to you. Let them push those distractions away, and you need to be able to step up and play your style of football. Don't play down to Texas Tech. Play your style of football at home. Close out the season good. All right, well, let's get to Patrick's Big Fat Poll, and then there's actually an announcement about what we're going to be doing here on the Sports Complex as the year wraps up. But let's get to the Big Fat Poll of the day. Then we'll give an announcement. Then we'll go to break, and we'll come back and start answering some of your text messages. Sound good? All right. Here's the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Patrick's Big Fat Poll of the day on the Horn.
Got a couple for you today. So first of all, we're asking you about if I'm the lunatic who's the only one who doesn't want to talk to my hairdresser, my barber, or whatever you want to call it, your stylist. Am I the only one that got my hair cut today? And I prefer silence. I want to tell you, and I know what I want, so I'm just gonna tell you what it is, and then be like, hey, can you knock that out for me? And then we're good. And then if you can ask me a question, it's fine, but we don't need to talk about the weather. We don't need to do that. Am I crazy, or is that somebody else? Did somebody else text that? But some Texas football questions for you. A texter asked yesterday, I thought it was a good question, who would you like to play in the Big 12 championship? There's 3 teams likely that you could play, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, and Kansas State. Which team would you like to play in the Big 12 championship? If you got to pick how the scenario played out, who would you want to be in there and play against? Would you want to rematch with Oklahoma? Do you want to rematch with K-State to close them out? Or do you want to play the Oklahoma State, the team we haven't played yet? Which one do you want? Pick one of those. Or if you think of another school and you give me the scenario, if you want to pick another school and give me the scenario they get in, then that's fine. But I need a scenario. You can't just say, I'd like to play the worst team, because that's why they're not going to be in that game. The other question I want to ask you about Taj Brooks. Taj Brooks has, since week 3, had 100 yards in every game except for K-State, but he only had 17 carries. That's still at 98 yards. Was averaging close to 6 yards a carry in that game. He has been killing it. Will Texas hold Taj Brooks under 100 yards? They've been doing great on the end on the run stopping. Will Texas be able to hold Taj Brooks under 100 yards? That's one question. Who would you like to play in the Big 12 championship? That's another question. And to give you the announcement, we'll start promoting this more tomorrow and start getting the news out, and we'll be telling everybody. But we've heard your comments and your text, and we've heard what you guys have been asking for us to start a little bit earlier. Is people's commutes now are starting a little bit earlier, and we may not be on the air when you get in your cars and you'd like us to start a little bit earlier. And we're on too late that you guys are already home and having dinner by the time that we're going off the air. So the decision has been made that starting December 4th, Monday, December 4th, so that's in 2 weeks, we will be moving the Sports Complex from 4 to 6 p.m. You'll still be able to get Rich Eisen you'll get 2 hours of Rich Eisen right after Jim Rome leading into us, and then the third hour of Rich Eisen will play right after us at 6 p.m. But yes, 4 to 6 p.m. will be the new hours of the Sports Complex starting December 4th. So we'll still have this week. We'll have all of next week at 5 to 7 p.m., and then we will move from 4 to 6 p.m. As we move in to the end of the year and, trying to work, as a Horn, we're trying to be user-friendly out there and get you guys, the time that you want us on and you want the local sports coverage. And when you can be most vocal on the text line and join in the conversation and listen to us, that's when we want to do it here on the Horn. So we'll have that. Patrick's Big Fat Poll is up too. So if you got any questions, that 512-447-3776 is the text line. Please send those in, and we will get to them after the break. We're going to play some Sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Robbie, talking more about that run defense for Texas and what Texas Tech is going to try and do here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the sports complex on a Tuesday afternoon, playing songs with thanks in them because it's Thanksgiving week. It's an easy one. Come on. We're going to play them for the rest of the week here through Wednesday. We're off on Thursday and Friday. Friday, there will be a pregame show, though, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on the Horn with Aaron and Rod, getting you ready for Texas Tech. That will be a fun show and a fun game. You know, there'll be a day off. So just Rod's always great when he has a couple days, like when he has a couple days off and he's really pent up with ideas and things he's been going through because he never stops. So that'll be a good pregame show, I'll tell you that much. Coming back on the show, text line's open. We're asking you, who would you like to play in the Big 12 championship? And if you have a scenario, someone other than Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Oklahoma is the person. I think those are the three main ones. You can put that in there. But don't just put the worst team. You're avoiding the question. And Taj Brooks, been killing it lately. 100 yards in basically every game that he has started this season, except for one. Will he get to 100 yards against Texas in that amazing run defense? Those are the poll questions for you on the text line. And if you talk while you're getting a haircut, I'm just not that guy. But I want to see if I'm the crazy one or if there's some more out there like me. Text line's open. Let's get over and my man Chan's mentioned the game last night. The basketball game was gritty. They battled. Love them for it. We were so short compared to them in all 5 positions, and Dillon Mitchell was playing hard and flying all around. Yeah, we will get more into basketball in the 6 o'clock hour, but yeah, that was I do have some takeaways. There's no moral victories at Texas, but that was damn close. It was impressive how they fought in that game. They definitely fought in that game. You like to see that. We'll talk more about it in the 6 o'clock hour, but appreciate the text there. Texter says, I talk about all kinds of things with my hair cutter. I know him very well. He's kind of crazy, loves a good time, and usually drunk and stoned. I should mention I cut my own hair. Solid text there. Solid text. I've cut my own hair before too because I'm cheap, and then also it's like I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just get it done. There's no scheduled appointment. I've done it plenty of times. I thought for the holidays I'd get it good. I'm hosting a show, by the way, December 14th. Thursday, December 14th. Tickets are at 310 at ACL Live. You can get your tickets now for Jelly's 11th or 12th annual Christmas Jam. He's been doing it for so long. But it's a really fun show. All the information's up on my social medias for that. So check that out. But yeah, I'll be hosting that show. So I thought I'd get a cut, to not look crazy, not to look like I did it myself. I thought I'd get that done. Big Papa says Oklahoma State. I think I'm with you on Oklahoma State. I think I'm with you there. This texter says, I need a beat down Friday. We have to close out the next 2 games as butt whoopings. I'll say butt whoopings, but I don't know if that's Sark's MO. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think you need to win them convincingly. I think you need double-digit wins. You'd like to cover. If you cover, I think that'll carry weight. So if you win by 2 scores, if you win by 3, it'd be great. If you win by 2, it'd be great. I don't know if this is a team that's going to go out there and just try and run up the score. I'd love it if they did, but I don't know if that's the one. All right, let's get one more text. I'm going to play this sound from Hook 'em Up for me and Rob B. This is from WPI Parts Guy. It says, simply thanks for the show. Thanks for letting us be a part of it. You are appreciated. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for listening, WPI Parts Guy. I do appreciate that. And he also says, I just close my eyes and chill. No conversation. Saying if you talk during the haircut, that's what I want to do. I just want to chill. Let's just relax. It's peaceful. Calm, cut my hair, and then I'm done, and then I'm a new man. Feel good. Appreciate you there, WPR Parts Guy. Let's play this sound from Hook 'em Up with Dean Rob B, talking about Texas Tech's strengths and how they kind of play into Texas's hands in this game. It's Hook 'em Up with Dean Rob B, weekday morning 6 to 11, and we're playing some clips from it right now on the Sports Complex.
Let's get into some Texas versus Texas Tech discussion just a little bit, especially on a short week. We're from Sark. He does give an update, but he talked about a lot of kind of in-depth macro topics at the media availability. As my man E mentioned, he was very long-winded, was in a mood to talk. So he talked about a lot of different things. But first, let's hear about him talking about the Texas Tech game and the upcoming matchup. He spoke about how Texas Tech has shifted their offensive philosophy and they've become a more run-centric team. Yes, still an air raid team, but they've become a run-centric team. More so out of circumstance than anything else, right? Out of necessity. They had a lot of injuries at quarterback. Offensive line had pass protection issues, and Taj Brooks is their best offensive weapon. As a matter of fact, Sark was asked about Taj Brooks, the running back from Texas Tech, and here's what Sark had to say.
Well, great contact balance. Taj Brooks, the first guy has a hard time getting him down, and it's not always because of the elusiveness. It's his ability to absorb blows and stay on his feet and then continue to break tackles, get hard yards. They're a physical running football team. I think naturally you think of Tech, and if you're not watching them, they're running the ball. They're all spread out, and they're running, zone read, and nobody's tackling the guy, and he's running it. They're running up, and they're running gap schemes, and they're running downhill. It's a physical brand of football that they're playing, and they still do it with tempo. And so you have to get yourself aligned. But I do think there's been definitely a philosophical shift that Joey has implemented to that team that is a physical brand of football offensively that is playing to their defense. They've got a very good defense. And so those two things working together has shifted. They're not playing 48, 45 games and each team's running 100 plays. They beat Kansas 16-13 a couple weeks ago. They beat UCF 24-23, but they're winning games with that philosophy and that style. And so you have to adjust accordingly. But it all goes back to their ability to run the ball with Taj, and he's a heck of a player.
I mean, they are running the football. I mean, these are the numbers for Tech running the football since the Baylor game. So 6-game sample size here, 42, 30, 43, 42, 44, 29. So essentially they've run the ball at least 40 times in 4 of the last 6 games. Yeah, and by the way, they're not running it all that successfully. They're basically in those games I just talking about. If you go look at it, they're averaging over 4 yards per rush in 3 of those games. That was it. That's 3 of the last 6 games. They've averaged over 4 yards. They've averaged 6.5 yards per rush versus UCF. A little over 3 yards per rush. Under 3.5 yards per rush versus TCU and Kansas. 3. It looks like they were right at 3.5 yards per rush versus BYU. It's not a dominant running attack. I think it's kind of just helps them control the game a little bit, and it lets them funnel usage to their best offensive weapon, which is Taj Brooks. But like I said, they're not a dominant running team. K-State was a top 5 running team in the country when they came in here with dual threat quarterbacks and a competent run game and a better offensive line. Way better offensive line. And Texas shut them down, and they had their worst rushing output in a game since 2014. That's the K-State. K-State's easily the second most physical team in the Big 12, way more physical than Texas Tech. And you just held Iowa State on the road to 9 total rushing yards, and that's a team that wants to run the football too. Iowa State's just as good at running the football. They don't have a Taj Brooks, but in terms of overall team effectiveness, in terms of running the football, they're probably just as effective as Texas Tech is. It's just a weird shift in philosophy for Texas Tech, but I know it's not a necessity. It's not what they want to be. It's what they need to be in order to survive.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is styles make fights, and this is a good style for Texas, a good matchup because they've shifted to kind of doing what Texas is trying to do, right? Just run the ball, be real physical. They got the 2 big tackles up front, like Texas does. And this is Joey McGuire. Realize I mentioned this earlier, but Joey McGuire now in 7 career games coaching at Texas Tech in November, he's 6-1. And the only loss came last year to a team that played for the national championship in TCU, and it was a close game. So this is what we talk about with these high school coaches. They keep fixing problems. They just keep solving it. Let's try this. Let's try this. There's not which is what good coaching is. But at the same time, you're not a finished product. And Joey McGuire knows how to coach and knows how to get the most out of his personnel. And, it's led to them switching to Baron Morton's, the quarterback. And, Tyler Shuck has entered the portal and essentially said, look, this is how we're going to have to win games. As Sark just said, we may not be successful running the ball, but we're protecting our good defense right now.
Yep.
We're helping them not have to, play as many snaps and get tired by the end of the football game. So give Joey McGuire that, and he comes in here knowing he's overmatched, because I do think if you take the boxing analogy, if fight styles make fights, Texas is right now a heavyweight, and Texas Tech's kind of a middleweight trying to punch up, and so that's kind of a challenge. But we'll see. I mean, I like the game. It's a 14-point line. There's a reason Texas is 13.5 to 14 points favored at home. Night should be a real good crowd, and looking forward to seeing this game. But and obviously the Longhorns should be completely focused on Texas Tech based on last year's loss. And by the way, somebody said about the tush push and the Eagles and how they start 1st and 9.
Mhm.
And they can go for it on fourth down line. Joey McGuire's going to go for it on 4th down. They're not.
Yes,
They're going
he
to try to extend drives.
Why not?
Why not?
It worked last year for you. You might need to break it out again. I'm with you on that 100%. And, I think that there's a possibility, even though they have been a very run-oriented team, run-centric team in the last 5 weeks, I do think against Texas, if they're just watching film, I think they may come out and pass first and run lots of slant routes. Running the traditional run game it hasn't worked against Texas. I mean, nobody's been able to run it in a traditional way. Bama did for a quarter.
2.8 yards per carry in conference play allowed.
Yeah, TCU did it for like a couple of series in the second half. But, I mean, you guys can remember off the top of your head how many teams ran the football handing off the ball against Texas because it hasn't happened a lot.
Yeah.
So, I think they're going to throw it. I think they're going to come out. Not throw it a lot. They're not going to abandon the running game, but I think it's a fool's errand to just try to run the football against Texas.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Baron Morton, let's not forget, and we've heard from our friend Craig Flowers from the High Ground. He works at those air it out camps, the quarterback camps out in West Texas. And Baron Morton's is a disciple of that, the air it out camp. So he knows the air raid. He can throw it. He can spin the rock, and they've got some decent receivers. They may have to alter their attack here. Having gotten to this point, won 3 games in a row, maybe knowing against a heavyweight, you're going to have to maybe go back to some of the older stuff if you're going to move the football in this game. And I would say, too, that Joey McGuire's familiar with a lot of the players on this roster because he was coaching high school football when in the Metroplex, a lot of these guys were coming through. And when he got to Baylor, he talked about yesterday at his news conference how he recruited Byron Murphy. Because Dallas was his territory. He came to Baylor from Cedar Hill, so he recruited the Metroplex when he got to Baylor.
All those guys.
So he knows a lot of this. He knows this personnel, and he likes it. He thinks they're really good, but doesn't mean you can beat them. I mean, he knows them. He's familiar with the players.
There's even a report that he reached out and communicated with Sark after Sark's win.
Yeah.
K-State.
Yeah, after Alabama. He texted him after the Alabama win and the K-State win.
It was both of the wins.
Yeah, congratulated him.
Which I thought was kind of weird that he reached out to him after that. Very good for him, though. He texted Coach Sarkisian.
Yeah. Ty, can we play? I know, Rod. Can we play Can we play Sark's thought on Brett Yormark while we were talking about him in here behind the burnt orange curtain, just for folks so they can hear? This is Sark taking the high road on the Brett Yormark conversation, which a lot of people are going to talk about this week. The comments he made at the booster function last summer will be played quite a bit between now and kickoff. Here was Sark yesterday when asked about the commissioner's comments.
There was nothing to smooth over. He for me, we've been on this kick here for months now. This whole situation, us leaving the Big 12, our players didn't choose to leave the Big 12, right? They came to play for the University of Texas. What conference we're in, that's not what our players. They're just choosing to put on the burnt orange and white and run out of the tunnel. And so whether the commissioner's rooting against our players to win or not, or we're in the SEC or we're in the Big 12, at the end of the day, our guys just want to play good football and they want to win. And so we've tried to consume ourselves with what we need to do. As you guys have heard me say, we need to be enamored with us. And that's something that we've done. And that's been our focus. And I think that's why our players have been so poised and so composed, even on the road, as we go on the road and the success we've had there. Says we haven't gotten caught up in what's going on outside. We've really tried to quiet the noise. We've really tried to stay focused on one another and how we can continue to support one another. And so, for the commissioner, we've had plenty of conversations, and he is coming. I got a chance to see him. He was in Ames Saturday night. He'll be here Friday. And I'm hopefully we put on a heck of a show for him. That's what I want. He's a commissioner of our conference. And I'm hopeful that when he watches us play, he's proud of the way that we play and representing the Big 12, because that's the conference we're in right now.
Yeah, there's the high road.
Classy. Yeah, it was a classy comment from Sark. Hope he's proud. I don't know if he's proud. I'm sure.
Here's what I would say though. For Brett Yormark, who, as he just said, live where your feet are. it would be good for his current conference if Texas made it to the final.
Oh no, it is.
They'd make a lot of money. They'd make a lot of money.
It's
as a
good for the
conference.
money, but it's not good for the optics.
Sure.
The optics are the teams that you brought into the conference are performing poorly,
Right.
and the teams that are leaving your conference right now, they're the blue bloods. That they're the ones who are the cash cows and they're on their way out. So I'm just saying, optics wise, it's not a great look. Yeah, you get money, you get the money, but
Well, and because right now his conference, Brett Yormark has one team that could play in the Final Four, and that's Texas. So there's almost the idea that, but that's look, show me the money, man.
yeah,
That's revenue for all the teams,
It
and
is.
you can't do anything about them leaving. And there is an opportunity, just like then you'd have back-to-back years with a team in the Final Four out of the Big 12.
yeah. But I mean, like I said, it's kind of like being you can celebrate that if you want to, but we all know that's not good for you, Big 12. It's not good for the future prospects
I'm
of the
just
Big
saying
12.
the rest of the conference would celebrate the cash flow income. That
Oh
would
yeah,
come
of course
from it.
they'll celebrate
Yeah.
the money, but I'm just saying for the future relevance
sure.
of the conference, it's not good. They wanted one of their other representatives to, be as good, if not better than Texas, and that's not the case.
Well, so far, I'm right, and most likely they're going to have a different representative that's playing Texas in the Big 12
Yeah,
title,
that's a good thing.
which would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Good for theater.
Good stuff there from Hook 'em Up with E and Rod B. We got to take a break. When we come back to the text line 512-447-3776. Who would you like to play in the Big 12 championship game? Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Kansas State. Those are the three most likely scenarios. If you have a scenario to get someone else in there, feel free to text that in. And Taj Brooks has been killing it for Texas Tech, running the ball. Since he's become the starter, he has had 100 yards in every game but one. And that one, he was averaging over close to 6 yards a carry at 98 yards. Just missed it. But will he break 100 yards against Texas? Send that one in as well on the text line. Keeping it rolling here on the Sports Complex on a Tuesday afternoon right here on the Horn 1019 AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex here on a Tuesday afternoon, short week. We get out of here. We have another show tomorrow, and then we're off for Thanksgiving, Thursday and Friday. But pregame show will be on Friday, 4 to 6, right here on the Horn. Let's get back to that text line, 512-447-3776. We're asking you, who would you like to play in the Big 12 Championship? Will Taj Brooks get to 100 yards against Texas like he's been doing all season long? This texter says, best chance of making the college football playoff is to beat a top 10 OU team to avenge the only loss. I do not know if they'll be top 10. They win this week against TCU. It'll help them, but they're 14 right now, I believe. So I don't believe they get back in the top 10, but close. And I get your point. It is probably the best bet. If Oklahoma State had kept winning, then it would be a different story. You could play Oklahoma State, and they were ranked ahead, but then they kept losing and get blown out by UCF and then have a hard game against Houston. So they're 23 right now. They don't really help you a ton either. So for Texas, I know UT may be the best chance, and you avenge your one loss. You can say, look, we lost to them, but we came back and beat them, and especially if you beat them well, give you that extra shot. I think it depends, too, on what happens this week, who you really want to see. There is part of it. Even though Florida State loses and Washington loses and Oregon loses and Michigan loses, then, all right, I want the easiest team then. Give me the easiest team because we can go sneak in right then. But if those guys are all still going, you may have some issues, and you may need to try and get whatever you can to get in there. My man Nate says, hell yeah, Patrick, the Star has a better name, has a better time, and nice work, KK. Yes, KK is always working behind the scenes. We know that. I was on the phone with her today. What a shocker. Always working, does a great job, KK. Chief Engineer says, no conversation for the haircut appointment. We were talking about making my haircut earlier. Don't like to have a conversation. It's just me. Nothing against anybody I've ever got my haircut from. I just prefer to have no conversation. It says, I've had the same lady for the past 4 years for this reason. She gets it. I start with how are you, and that's it, but I usually keep my eyes closed for the majority and relax. I also prefer women. It's not a skill thing necessarily. I'm a larger man, 6'1", 350. There's going to be accidental close contact in what you prefer. I will tell you, I'm actually different. I prefer a guy who is going to know what I want with my hair than opposed to somebody that I've had women that think, well, I'll do the hair like how I wanted to see it on a man, not realizing I'm a big dude, and it's not going to look the same. Don't do the hair what you think it's going to look like. You got to do what you know, and then a big guy may go, okay, they know what to do with the hair there. Chief Engineer says, K-State, Easy OU has been there, done that. Gundy gets up for these dames. Dangerous. Also, woohoo, 4 to 6. Yes, the show will be moving to 4 to 6 December 4th. I appreciate that you're happy with that one. And you get grumpy when she interrupts your shows when you talk about non-important stuff like kids, grandkids, bills. I appreciate that. And he says, I'm up for the other top teams killing each other, so we sneak in. Thank you, Chief Engineer. I appreciate all that. Keep texting in. We'll keep going. We've still got some more texts to get to. 512-447-3776. We got to hit a break at the top of the hour. We'll come right back and get into some talk, more of your texts. We'll also get into Texas basketball, some NFL. The game happened last night. Some other NFL action happened today. That was some news, I will say, happened today. We can get all that. We come back here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Hour 2 here on the Sports Complex on a Tuesday afternoon. Text line's open, 512-447-3776. We're asking you, is Taj Brooks going to get 100 yards like he's been doing for most of the season? Who would you like to play in the Big 12 Championship? Do you talk to your hairdresser when you go into it? We'll get into that. We'll repeat the announcement we made earlier about the new time slot. We'll tell you about that, too. Talk some Texas basketball. They played the defending national champions last night in Madison Square Garden. We'll talk about that and some NFL talk as well. And whatever you guys want to talk about on the text line, 512-447-3776 is the text line number. If you did not hear the announcement earlier, the line is we are going to be moving. We're because we've listened to you guys, because we've heard what you said, and because we're trying to get the timing right, we've been able to work it to where we'll be moving our time slot for the Sports Complex starting December 4th, so about 2 weeks, from 4 to 6 p.m. We're 5 to 7 right now. We're moving up 4 to 6. If you like Rich Eisen, you will still have Rich Eisen before us. And hour 3 of Rich Eisen will now be airing 6 to 7 after our show. We're going to be right in the middle, little Rich Eisen sandwich for you. In the middle, talking local sports with you, keeping the text line going. But we know that's a lot of you guys are commuting a little bit earlier, so we're going to be trying to get you and get you out. And and if you appreciate everybody listening, sometimes you guys listen when you get home, and I really do appreciate that. But we wanted to get more of your commute, more of you people's commute. So we're moving it 4 to 6 starting December 4th. So that is what the big announcement is. Text line's open, though. Let's get into that and get back to that before we get to some Texas basketball. This text says, like the new hours, appreciate it. Spoiled with local sports, play OU. The higher rating revenge looks better. OSU has the easier route. I think, OSU does have the easier route, but OU is. And I think that there's something to be said about playing OU. I think that there is something to be said about if you're able to beat them, they're the highest ranked team. There's something to be said that it goes this. This texter, Oklahoma Greg, says, absolutely, Oklahoma State. We need to close the door in the Big 12 by beating all the old teams, and Gundy has owned Texas the last 10 years, and we'll play OU many more times to avenge this year's loss. And I like that. I personally I'm an Oklahoma State guy. I really like to play the Oklahoma State and just beat everybody and just kind of go through. And that playing a team twice in a year can sometimes be sketchy. So you just go beat everybody. But I am on the side too, Oklahoma, depending on what happens in the college football playoff polls, that it could be a better win. And if you avenge your one loss, it could look pretty good on their resume to get another big win, especially if OU comes out and beats up on TCU this week to get in, and they're able to get backdoor into there and avenge that loss. It's a pretty good win. I like that. I would like to see Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. Would love to make our last Big 12 win a clobbering of Oklahoma. There is something to be said, too, of the whole Brett Yormark and, trying to talk bad about Texas. If it was Texas and OU and the Big 12 championship game in the last year of Texas and OU is Texas and OU and kind of sticking it to the Big 12 on the way out. And I get there's not a ton of bad blood between us and the Big 12 other than Brett Yormark saying that stuff, or beginning of the year. There's not really a ton of bad blood. We wanted to go to the SEC. It's not really bad blood against them. I know we can say that the teams sometimes treat us poorly because we made all the money and they wanted a complete even split of everything, even though clearly Texas was the bigger brand. I get you can get mad at that, but I think there's something to be funny that would be about if it was Oklahoma and then, we heard Sark said Yormark will be here for the game on Friday. So, if he's here for the game and then OU is already, and we see that OU gets in, then he will not be a happy camper. I can't imagine he'd be a happy camper. The text said, dang, I missed the announcement. That is the announcement. We'll be moving the show 4 to 6 starting December 4th. So hopefully you get that announcement now. Been going to the same hairdresser for 10 years. She got my hair right the very first time, so kept going back. Only thing is she is a talker and I'm not. But it's better to not have someone. It's better to have someone not to have to tell them how to do my hair. It's a vicious cycle. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm with you on that one. Foch says, play Oklahoma and kick their butt this time. Like that text. This texter says, I want another shot at Oklahoma. They gave us their best shot at the college. They gave us our best shot at the college football playoff. I agree with that. So I'm with you. We got some more texts. We'll get to them. Keep sending them in. 512-447-3776. I do want to talk about Texas football, Texas basketball for a second. We'll get back to the text line, but I do want to mention the game yesterday. Texas did end up losing to UConn, 81-71. They play the game. It's a back-to-back game for Texas. We know Dylan DeSue has been out. We know that Texas has been playing okay without him. They were able to beat Louisville even after a very slow start, not a great shooting night. They come into this game. Caden Shedrick, who had 27 points against Louisville and the night before, was out of this game. He had his arm, he had surgery on his shoulder in the offseason. He took a lot of beating on it in that game. So they decided as a precautionary tale, you know what? It doesn't matter if we're playing UConn and the win. It's going to be great, but we know there's going to be a physical game against UConn, and we don't want to risk getting him knocked out for the next, 2 weeks or 3 weeks and injuring him worse, or maybe, who knows what could happen. Let's let him rest. Let's not push it too far. We're still very early in the season. Let's not let him rest. The problem with that is without Dylan DeSue, without Caden Shedrick, you are a much smaller team. You basically had Onyema out there, Brock Cunningham were your big guys, and that was about it for your big guys. And they played a lot of minutes, and you know what? They did a good enough job. Dylan Mitchell stepped up in this game. Dylan Mitchell, especially early on when no one was hitting shots. Max Asmus and Tyrese Hunter both start off really cold and couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and Dylan Mitchell showed up and put up a bunch of points early. He finishes with 21 points on 9 of 12 shooting, 3 of 5 from the free throw line. He gets 8 rebounds as well and 2 block shots. Just one of those games for Dylan Mitchell that you kind of saw in that moment when no one else was able to take over. He got his spot, and that may be a light. If you want some positive news out of that game and it's a loss, Dylan Mitchell may have found a little bit of more confidence in something he's going to be able to do, as he did that against the defending national champions. He kept getting to the basket. He kept getting his shots. He kept getting into mid-range and be able to hit those. If you add that to the Texas Longhorns team and add him as an offensive threat, a 20-point possible scorer a game, that we know Caden Shedrick is now a 20-point possible scorer a game, and if we want to add back Dylan DeSue and we know what he can do, and then Max Asmus, who did not play well in the Madison Square Garden, if he starts to find his edge a little bit more, as he gets a little bit more used to playing with the bigger competition, if Tyrese Hunter can get hot in these games, there's a lot of hope for this Texas team. They just shot really poorly again. They shot poorly on the three-pointers last time. They shot 5 for 16. It was not just limited to them. Their defense was good for UConn, and the defense was good for Texas, limiting UConn to 7 of 24, which basically helped them back into it. UConn went on a big run early, was able to push the game out to about a 10-point lead, and as much as Texas tried to get into it and fight back, they fought back at the end of this game, and they fought hard back at the end of this game. It unfortunately was just too little too late, and by the time they got there, their legs were tired. UConn hit some really big shots. Texas missed some big shots, but a hell of an effort by Texas to get in there. They got out rebounded 40-29. That was kind of a big sign. There was too many second chance points. If you take some of those away, and they only allowed 13 second chance points, which seems less than I saw. I felt like I saw more than that just watching the game, but that was unfortunate. They did pick their shooting up, shot 50% in the second half. But if you're a Texas basketball fan, if you're just a fan watching that, there was a lot of positives. Rodney Terry came out and said it after the game. He said that there is no moral victories at Texas. He has the right viewpoint. There is no moral victories, but that's about as damn close as you can get. That was a hell of a game by this Texas basketball team to fight back, very shorthanded, to fight back on a team that was much bigger than them, to play very tight defense on them, to keep them shooting lower from the three-point range, to make them not be able to go in there, to push them and make them go up and shoot and hit free throws, which they did. They went 16 of 18. UConn did. They had a good game. They trashed the boards, and Texas has issues with crashing the boards, but if you take out Shedrick and you take out Dylan DeSue, two guys who are going to be on the court, at least one of them pretty much all of the time, it just guys were able to get through. Tyrese Hunter's not the biggest guy. Max Asmus is not the biggest guy. So Texas was just a little shorthanded. I think IT Horton did okay in this game, kind of trying to find it. He missed some threes late, but I think he was doing better finding his defense in this game. He's got to find his spot. But yeah, we've seen now Kendall Weaver is going to be able to come in. He brought some fire into this team as well. I think he did a good job bringing some much-needed energy into this game when Texas was kind of starting to get beat up and just feeling a little down. But there's a lot of positives. There was a lot of positives for a 10-point loss in the game. They were really into it. There was a point where it got down to 6, and it felt like it could have got to 4, and you just missed a shot and missed a free throw, and you just couldn't quite get it down to where you needed to be. But overall, if you want to say this is early in the season with 2 of your better players out of the game, and you're going up against a team that won a national championship last year, I'm going to say that was a great effort by Texas, and there's a lot of positivity you can get out of. They go on to play Wyoming on Sunday. There's a couple more games, I believe, until they go and play that big game against Marquette. That is going to be a huge game going up against Shaka Smart coming up. We'll get into more of that as the time gets closer and closer. But great effort from this Texas basketball team to not fall apart, to stay in it, and to fight in this game. That's what you want to see. You want to see the fight in the game, and that's what they did. So hats off to them for going to Madison Square Garden and not allowing themselves to be put out by UConn. That was a great effort. I came up a little short, but I left that game as a loss. I was upset at the moment, but I'm just really proud of the team for how they acted in that game and how they fought through. Let's get back to the text line. 512-447-3776. This texter says, that's the easiest choice. Give me the Sooners, and you shouldn't have to ask why. From Arbor Horn 81. There's plenty of reasons for Oklahoma. Texas needs to play the highest ranked team so far. That is Oklahoma. It's Kevin from Elgin. Good text says, hey, Patrick, I think the only way getting the college football playoff is by avenging our only loss to the lovers, or what should be called, North Texas. Yes, I agree. I think everybody's right on this, that you have to that they're the highest ranked team. It's the best path to the college football playoffs, which I don't think there's ever been a point in this season with the college football playoffs with the 4 teams that there's been 5 undefeated teams going this far into the season. So, they're going to have to go into it. I hope that it does weigh in more that Texas played a very good team. And heck, I hope it weighs well for Alabama that they played a Texas team. We want these non-conference games. We want these good non-conference games. And, you hope that kind of gives you an edge. I know these are booked far enough out. You don't know, and Texas could have been a 3-win team the year before, and they could have not been that team. They were. These are 2 really good teams, and so hopefully that pays into it, and depending on what happens, we'll be able to find a way where we could possibly get into it. Right now it's Big 12 championship, and you're happy with where you get in that. You did lose the game, but I think you're right. Oklahoma is the way to go. As texter says, I talked to my hairdresser, but I prefer not to. Whatever keeps my barber happier. That's kind of what it is. I'm just curious. And if you cut hair, let me know. Do you want to talk to people? Or are you just doing it for kindness too? Because I feel like it's just both of us just BSing each other, and neither one of us wants to do it. We both would be fine with silence, but someone's got it. But then it's like, well, I don't want to be the one to be the jerk, and so someone talks. That's why I think it is just. Chief Engineer says Gundy is a trickster. Don't like that guy. He'll be playing every trick play from the past 20 years. I like that one too. Brandon says, I don't even want this game versus Tech to be close. Want to see 70 hung on him. Hook him. Brandon, I do too. I do not see that happening. Without Jonathan Brooks, Cedric Baxter's playing well. CJ Baxter's doing a great job, but I don't necessarily see it. And with Quinn Ewers being a little beat up still, I don't necessarily see us putting up 70. I'd like to see us put up 35-40 for sure. And then I like to see him be able to hold Texas Tech. That's the reality. Win the turnover margin. Not a lot of craziness that goes into this that you have to do. This texter, can you do 11 to 7? I cannot do 8 hours of talking by myself. No, I cannot. I appreciate that you prefer me to some national people, but I that is a little bit much for me. If you missed the game last night, the Eagles did beat the Chiefs 21-17. The story of this was, of course, the drops. 5 drop passes for the Chiefs. They lead the league in drop passes this year. Yeah, and they had a pass. Valdez-Scantling, Mahomes hit him over the top. The reality is, which is the craziest part to say about this Chiefs team, but Spags has them going. This is a defense-first team. And Mahomes and Kelsey are basically holding up an offense with a beat-up offensive line that doesn't seem to be holding very well, and a bunch of wide receivers who can't catch a football. I don't know if you can say – now, they're the best tandem of a defense first team on the offense of Mahomes and Kelsey, but I don't know if that is a recipe to get you there. This seems like a point that you're going to have to, the Chiefs are going to have to figure out in the next few weeks at least one other receiver that they can trust in big moments to get the ball to, because they tried a bunch of different guys at the end of that game and it did not work out. But the Eagles get the win, continuing to push that lead against the Cowboys in the NFC, and then the Eagles just look good. They didn't look as great as they've been looking, but again, that Chiefs defense is really, really good. Some other news around the NFL: Matt Canada, the Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator that everybody has wanted fired for a long time, finally is fired. So we will see if now the Steelers and Mike Tomlin finally made the decision that's going to get him another winning season. But I don't know why this took so long. This is one of those coaching decisions that it seems like should have been made a while ago. I have no idea why it's taking this long. But Matt Canada was finally fired today. And then finally, Tom Brady came out today and said the NFL is worse than it ever has been because they're not letting players hit each other and they're not going old school. And I think he wants to go. I don't know what Tom Brady was saying, because all these rules were made for quarterbacks like him, and he was the one who complained every time anybody touched him. It's the craziest, most hypocritical old man statement. Get off my yard. He is going to be awful on Fox if he has this attitude. No, let him play. Let him hit him. I know I got away with it, but screw everybody else. It is a terrible opinion. And what Sark talked about the other day is you leave the game better than you found it. We talk about Bijan and Roschon, and they left the University of Texas better than they found it. You talk about the seniors on this Texas team that are going to be celebrating senior night on Friday with Texas Tech, and those guys have left the program better than they found it. What did Tom Brady leave the NFL if he's walking out now and says it sucks? Then he left it a worse place, because he was apparently the guy who was running the show while he was in there. So, Tom Brady, if you don't want to say something positive, just shut up and go away. We don't need you anymore. I'm sure you were great when you played. I wasn't a fan of you then, because you always seemed to be this guy who just had to be the center of attention and had to be that guy. Seemed like a guy I wouldn't get along with. You still seem like a guy you wouldn't get along with. Not a fan of the comments today from Tom Brady. I'm not a fan of the every time my things were better when I was younger and things were better when I was having fun. Never a fan of that crowd. It's like, man, you get it, but that's what part of getting older is. You just have to age with it and find the fun. Stop being the one who's trying to ruin everybody else's good time. Have a good time yourself. Enjoy the game. You get it mad because they're finding players. Look, I'm a big proponent of, I think it's silly when an offensive player tucks his head and the defender gets a late hit and they say he was targeting because he lowered his head. Yeah, that's BS. That's not what he was talking about. He was saying that you should be able to try and level people again and try and knock people out of games, which you shouldn't be trying to do, because you want those players to keep playing week after week. You shouldn't want everybody to get knocked out of games. I know in the moment of the game you want it, but in grand scheme you don't. You want to play the best players. You want those guys to be playing the game. He wanted to be in the game. He could have broken his leg every season if he would have wanted to be the way he is. It's a weird random comment from Tom Brady today. I'm sure it will be talked about much more as the week goes on. But it's too much. It's too short for that. It's a short week with a Thanksgiving week. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more of your text, 512-447-3776. And I want to play some more sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob B. Coming up here on the Sports Complex on the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and hornfm.com. Back on the Sports Complex on a Tuesday afternoon, playing songs about thanks since it's Thanksgiving week. And solid entry here from ZZ Top. Thank you there from ZZ Top. Solid stuff. Text line still open, 512-447-3776. We can get into some more talk about Texas football. I do want to play some sound from Hook 'em Up with E and Rod B as they talked about, the culture of this team and how they've turned into a 10-win team. And Sark talked about it, but Rod has also been someone who has been through that and been through the culture of a winning team at Texas. And so that is something that it's a good piece of audio there from Texas, or there from Hook 'em Up. Let's see a couple more texts in here. Some people that are trying to figure out the way in the college football playoff. The loser of Ohio State and Michigan drops out. Not necessarily. If Michigan wins, Ohio State unfortunately probably still stays in, because they are very connected in there. I don't believe it. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's complete BS if that happens, but I think it's very probable that Ohio State stays in. Florida State loses. They got to lose to Florida. That is not a given so far, or in the ACC championship game, but they may not be able to get in there. They don't have the strength to schedule. And Washington probably is going to win out at this point. Oregon does have Oregon State, who's a pretty good team. And Oregon does not have a great strength of schedule. If Texas beats Texas Tech by more than 8, then that'll tell you Oregon only beat Texas Tech by 8. You have a similar opponent, and we would have beat them worse. So beat them by more than 8, and you prove that you're better than Oregon, because that's all Oregon could do to Texas Tech. Texas has a playoff problem from this texter. They aren't getting in unless Iowa wins the Big Ten or FSU loses the SEC, because the Pac-12 is in, Big Ten and SEC, maybe 2 SEC if Bama beats the Dogs. Matt in Round Rock. And I think the Big Ten, I think Michigan, it's very easy. If Ohio State beats Michigan, they're definitely out, because the scandal and everything else, I think people will just easily push them out. But there is a lot of scenarios that have to happen. They have not happened yet, which makes it harder to believe that they will happen. WPI Parts Guy says final score Texas 31, Texas Tech 17. We'll get more into that tomorrow, but we'll get more into that. I do want to play this sound from Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob B, talking about the culture at Texas from a guy who had a pretty good culture when he was there at Texas with Mac Brown, getting right before that national championship team. Hook 'em Up with Ian Rob B, weekday morning 6 to 11 on the Horn. Here's a clip from him right now.
Steve Sarkisian met with the media, as always, his Monday press conference and Monday media availability. Short week, though, of course, because we know it is the Thanksgiving week for the Longhorns, so they'll be on a short week. So he spoke to the media about, obviously, Iowa State, but did speak about Texas Tech, too. But first, let's hear from the head coach talking about that big win, as he called it a culture win, when their culture was challenged versus Iowa State on the road names.
Alrighty, quick recap of the ball game the other night. Going back through the tape, I thought our guys played a really good football game. I know we had some self-inflicted wounds in the first half that took 2 touchdowns off the board, and naturally, had the fumble inside the 10. But I thought our guys, did a great job keeping their poise and composure. Our defense continued to play well. We came out in the second half. And of our 5 possessions, 2 touchdowns, a field goal. We had the 1 punt, and then we finished the game with the ball in our possession at the end of the game. So really efficient second half. I thought that defensively, again, our ability to stop the run, to pretty much make them one-dimensional. And again, we gave up the 1 pop pass to the tight end there in short yardage, but I thought our defense had a heck of a game. I thought offensively the balance was there. Without, obviously not having Jonathan, I thought Cedric Baxter really showed up. It was a nice job by Jaden Blue and his ability to step into the fold. So all in all, I thought we played a really good game, controlled the game, even just on our mindset, even into that fourth quarter. So again, I like the poise that our guys showed in that game when things clearly weren't going our way, and we were kind of stubbing our own toes there in the first half, but nobody panicked, and I thought that's a sign of maturity for our team. So that was a real positive there.
Let's start talking about the win at Ames, and yeah, it is my man Jerry Hamilton. I was talking to him yesterday on All in Texas Football, the Inside Texas YouTube channel, talking Texas football all the time. You can always catch me on there. My man E. Hogan's on there doing some great work on the in-game live watch as well. But he said, this has been a culture season. for Texas, right? Establishing the culture. There's a lot of discussion about culture in this press conference, media availability. As a matter of fact, I don't know if we will have time to play it. We probably should, but it's close to 5-minute answer from Sark when he was asked by Anwar Richardson of Orange Bloods, define culture. And he looked like he was waiting on somebody to ask him that question. He's like, all right, how much time we got here? And he just went off for like 4-5 minutes. I think we'll have time to play it, of course, but it's good. It's really good. It's meat. But it shows you how much thought he's put into the culture of this program and this season. And I like the way my man Jerry put it. It's a culture season. And you talked about it, that was a culture win at Ames. And that's why maybe all the guys were so proud of it. It was because it did exemplify, it was the epitome of their culture. And a lot of different guys contributing. Jay Witt, Gunnar Helm. These aren't the stars of the show necessarily, right? Your main stars are X-Man and, Jay Brooks was your star and JT Sanders and AD Mitchell. And it was strange that in this culture win, the guys that stepped up were CJ Baxter, Gunnar Helm, Jay Witt. And I think that was, that's kind of a microcosm. And that's part of what Sark's so proud of, that no. We can go out there. It doesn't have to be if our top frontline guys, if our top players, our elite players, if they're not having a great day or they're being taken away, we can still win. To your point about finding a way to win ugly, that's part of winning ugly. Other guys have to step up in that role, and that I think is something Texas should be proud of in that game. Your top plays were made by, I love that movie, The Other Guys. You ever seen them with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell? Oh, you've seen that, Ty, right? The Other Guys?
Yeah, great film.
Great film. See? The classic comedy. I'm telling you, this holiday weekend.
The Other Guys.
The Other Guy. You should watch it with the family. Y'all will enjoy it. It's worth it. It's worth the watch. I'm telling you. Because actually, Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell are a pretty good comedy duo. But I digress. Getting back to it, it's about the other guys, not necessarily the stars of the show. It's about the other guys, and that's what the Iowa State win was about. It was about the other guys. Jay Witt, Helm, CJ Baxter. They stepped up.
Yeah, and that's you hope that those guys. I mean, they're the grit guys, right? They're the not the stars of the team kind of thing.
Blue guys.
But and we'll play it. We got 5 hours, so we will play his 4.5, 5 minute thoughts on culture and how you build culture and what that actually means. And I mean, it went viral yesterday because guys like John Gordon, the motivational best-selling author, was retweeting Sark's words on that of how to do it. I shared it with Colonel Craig Flowers, our specialist in leadership. He enjoyed it a lot because it's true. It's all truth about, and it's not just for sports. That's why those guys are any leader. Any organization, any business can learn from what Sark said yesterday, because it is true. Your culture is what you do all the time.
Yep.
And everybody in your group does all the time. I mean, it's just the way you act as a team, the way you act as a unit, and that's really what it's about. But it's not easy. And Sark, the biggest word he used was organic. It's organic. You can't put it on a T-shirt. If you think of the move of the show Ted Lasso, which I heard Jim Harbaugh talking about yesterday, but he was doing it in quips and jokes like Jim Harbaugh does. But Sark didn't say anything about Ted Lasso, but the believe sign that's up over the wall in the show Ted Lasso. But yeah, you can put the sign up, but then you have to believe it. You got to do it. It's every day. And if you watch the run of that show over time, the culture changed and the attitudes changed. And I think that's what Sark is saying, that you got to be every day and intentional about it, top to bottom, coaches, players. And that's what's fun about seeing this team take that step, because a lot of these wins, are coming because of the culture, because of, the ability to not play great all the time. But guess what? On fourth and 4 stops from the 5-yard line, you're going to win a football game, or you need to run out the clock against Iowa State, or you need somebody to step up and make a play. This team has guys there that are bought in and playing for one another. The number one thing.
Totally agree. And playing for one another has got them 10 wins in the regular season for the first time since 2009. And Sark's first 10-win season as a head coach. Here's Steve Sarkisian talking about that accomplishment.
And then ultimately for us to get our 10th win, which is, it's obviously as players and as coaches, you're always looking to, those benchmarks throughout a season. Bowl eligibility is always something that people point to. 10-win seasons is always something people point to. Conference championships, something people point to. Bowl game, and then naturally, if there's a CFP opportunity. So it's a great benchmark for us to hit. I know the coaches were excited about it, but I think, all of us would tell you the same thing. We're not done yet, and we know there's more out there for us to do. The goals that we had set for ourselves, at the start of the season, are still there for us. So we're looking forward to kind of continuing the mission, continuing the journey.
All right, and that mission will be Texas Tech coming up this weekend. And Sark was asked about the Red Raiders, and here's Sark breaking down the Longhorns' next upcoming opponent.
And Friday night game. It's only our second night game of the year. We know it was a great spectacle, the first night game that we have, and we're looking forward to another awesome opportunity this Friday night. It'll be senior night for our seniors to celebrate them and all that they've done for our program. And I think that I've been pretty adamant and pretty clear about what those guys have meant to our program. And so a chance to honor them will be great. A chance for us to kind of solidify an opportunity to play in the Big 12 championship game is obviously exciting on that front. And then hopefully for our fans to celebrate this team, to where this team has come. And I know what everybody's gone through over the last decade or so. And so for the fact that this team has one more opportunity to play in DKR, Friday night, we're looking for a raucous, intense crowd, one that fuels our players with energy, but hopefully, again, like I always say, the players have to do their part. We have to do our part to fuel the fans with energy too. So hopefully everybody can make it. Everybody have a little turkey on Thursday. Enjoy your Friday afternoon, and then get to DKR for, I think, for us an awesome ball game against a really good opponent. I think Tech, it really had a tough start to the season. I know we all go through it, and you never know when injuries show up. But they were fighting that injury bug earlier in the year. And I think, as you could see them getting themselves healthier and healthier, they've strung together 3 in a row now. They're playing really good defense. They're running the football extremely well, kind of have changed philosophically that way. So we know we're going to get their best shot. And so we've got to do a great job of preparation this week for a heck of a ball club. And should be an exciting night Friday night.
Yeah, they are running the ball a little bit more. It is a weird philosophical shift, and I think it was out of necessity because quarterbacks kept going down. I mean, you need a new identity to the offense when you're working with your third-string quarterback. That's not going to work. And Taj Brooks is really talented, and this Tech team is running the football probably as much as any Tech team you remember in the last 15 years, 20 years or so.
We know it's funny. Taj Brooks is their best player offensively right now.
Yes.
And their offensive line is bad in pass protection. So I know when we were previewing Texas Tech, the idea was they're bringing their whole offensive line back. But as we said, there are a lot of Tech fans going,
should they?
Really? we didn't replace those guys?
What about the transfer board?
Yeah. But they're better in run block. So they're running a lot of gap scheme. They run a lot of power. They run behind Taj Brooks. And it was my buddy Mike Craven on the senior writer at Dave Campbell's Texas Football last night. We recorded our weekly Eyes on Texas podcast, and he gave the stat that he looked into the numbers of Jeff Traylor and Joey McGuire, Rod,
Mm-hmm.
two high school coaches.
Oh yeah.
Over the course of their career. Now, Joey McGuire, if you combine last year and this year, and what Jeff Traylor has done at UTSA, 18-2 in the month of November. Those two, which. Yeah. That's what you do in high school. You just keep trying to fix problems. Just keep trying to fix problems.
Get to the playoffs, and that's when you want to be peak.
You call them problem solvers, right?
Yeah,
we talked about Matt Campbell a little bit like that last week.
Yep.
That that's how you coach in high school. You can't go at anybody. You can't go find anybody.
Exactly right.
And okay, well, that's not working. Let's try this. Let's try to go win football games. And Joey McGuire, that's their best course of action. And guess what? As he said, they're winning close games. They're running the ball. They're protecting their defense a little bit. They're still doing it out of tempo. But this game, for me, the reason the Longhorns are a 2-touchdown favorite is those are similar styles, right?
You're right.
Texas kind of plays that style too. They just do it at a kind of a heavyweight level. I think right now Texas Tech would be a middleweight.
Yeah. It's what they've run the ball at least 40 times in 4 of the last 6 games.
And they've won 3 in a row.
And they've won 3 in a row, and it's strange. They're not always productive running the football either. They're just committed to it. Like, there are times where they're averaging 3.5, 3.4, 3 yards. And how about this? In 3 of the last 4 games, they've averaged less than 4 yards per carry, and yet they keep running. and they're still running for it. So they committed to it against Texas. I don't know if that's going to work against Texas rush
You're
defense.
kind of playing right into what they want you to try to
Right?
do.
I would say rush for 9 yards. K-State was a top 5 rushing offense, and they had their lowest rushing output since 2014 against
Well,
Texas with dual threat quarterbacks, which is really hard to defend. So I don't know. Josh Brooks is good. I don't know if he's that good.
Yeah, well, I'll go back to Joey McGuire. I think he'll know better than to try that. And you got to try, but at the same time, if you have to abandon it, you kind of know you maybe could get some in-breaking routes and throw the ball.
They'll do like U of A said. U of A's the first 2 drives, they were like handing it off, trying to run the ball,
and then they'll say, "No, let's just go throw it around. It's our only chance here."
Yeah.
Well, it's like a boxing match. He's bigger and stronger than me. Let me just start throwing haymakers and see if I land one.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Because you got no shot. You trying to sit in there. The longer you
can't box with this guy.
No. You're gonna
I got to hit him on the chin. Okay, there's some behind the BOC. We'll do it throughout the morning here. More from Sark. Somebody said any injury update. Sark did say yesterday that he doesn't think any of the guys who got nicked up on Saturday are not going to play.
He said you got to ask him on Thursday.
He said no more on Turkey Day. But right now, as of Monday, he felt pretty good that Xavier Worthy, DJ Campbell, JT Sanders,
Janae Barron was another guy that
should be good to go coming up in this game. All right.
Good stuff there from Hook 'em Up with Ian Robbie, talking about the culture, talking about Texas Tech. And we hope, I hope they're committed to the run on Friday. That would be nice for Texas. If they just said, we don't want to throw it on you guys, even though your pass defense has been suspect. We just want to run the football. I'd like that. We got to take a break. Come back, wrap up the show here on the Sports Complex and the Horn 1019, AM 1260, the Horn app, and the hornfm.com. We got to get out of here. Thanks to everybody for playing along on the text line today. Appreciate you guys every show, and Chief Engineer and Chan and Nate and all you guys who are regulars, WPI Parts Guy, all you guys that are regulars. Appreciate it. If you missed the announcement earlier, we are moving 4 to 6 p.m. starting December 4th. So it's 2 more weeks here. We'll finish out this week tomorrow, get you wrapped up with more Texas football talk, get some picks, see what can happen around the college football world, around the NFL world. We'll get to all that. Have a good time for the holidays here on the Sports Complex tomorrow. But until then, be kind, be safe, keep your underwear clean. We'll see you right back here tomorrow, 5 o'clock, for more The Sports Complex.